vaye muhyanti yasuraya tejo vari mridam yata venimayo yatra trisargo mrisha dhamna svena sadhana rasta kuhakam satyam param dhimahi. Hariom Tat Sat. So we're going to do the Atmarama chapter. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has just given teachings to Sri Sanatana Prabhu on Sambandha Abhidaya Prayojan Tattvas. So after hearing all these wonderful teachings, Sanatana Goswami has a question. So I'm going to pull up my screen here. Let's put this one. The chapter begins with a glorification of Mahaprabhu. All glories to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who acted as the eastern horizon, where the sun of the Atmarama verse rose. He manifested its rays in the form of different meanings, and thus eradicated the darkness of the material world. May he protect the universe. Such an amazing invocatory verse. All glories to Lord Chaitanya, all glories to Nityananda, all glories to Advaita Chandra, and all glories to the devotees of Lord Chaitanya. So after this, Sanatana Goswami clasped the lotus feet of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and humbly submitted the following petition. Sanatana Goswami said, "My Lord, I have heard that previously at the home of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, you explained the Atmarama verse in 18 different ways. Those who are self-satisfied," so this is the verse, of course, a verse, I guess, worth knowing. Atmaramastamonayo nagranta apyorukrame kurvanta hetukim bhaktem itam bhutaguno hari. Those who are self-satisfied and attracted by external material desires, unattracted by external material desires, are also attracted to the loving service of Sri Krishna, whose qualities are transcendental and whose activities are wonderful. Hari, the personality of Godhead, is called Krishna because he has such transcendentally attractive features. Okay, so I have heard this wonderful story and I'm therefore very inquisitive to hear your explanation again. If you would kindly repeat it, I would be very pleased to hear. So Mahaprabhu responds to Sanatana Goswami, I am one madman and Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya is another. Therefore, he took my words to be the truth. I do not recall what I spoke in that connection, but if something comes to my mind due to association with you, I shall explain it. Generally, by myself, I cannot give an explanation, but by the strength of your association, something may manifest itself. I really appreciate these two verses. And Prabhupada doesn't give any purport here, but our Sangha brings out the manifestation of Krishna, you can say. Just like when man and woman come together and then produce a child. So when the proper Sangha comes together, a very beautiful thing is manifest. Harikatha, with all its attractiveness. Uhyam Akyati Prichati, 6 loving exchanges mentioned in Upadeshamrita. 3 pairs, in the middle pair, Guhyam Akyati Prichati. So one devotee is sharing his realizations, Guhyam Akyati. They're like secret. And another devotee is inquiring about that, Guhyam Prichati. And the combination of the two, is the manifestation of Harikatha with all of its attractiveness. If you, just like we are reading here about the connection of Mahaprabhu and Sanatana Goswami, or you study Srimad Bhagavatam, and essentially Srimad Bhagavatam is the conversations between two devotees for the most part. And the Guhyam Akyati Prichati between them gives rise to the Harikatha that can dissipate the darkness of the ignorance and the darkness of the material world. So I just appreciate this idea a lot. When the right Sangha coalesces or comes together, then one may be empowered to speak all sorts of things, even things that you would normally not contemplate in your waking life or it's on the surface of your conscious, still you become empowered just by the Sangha around you. I think there's a nice verse there. Now it's only now just coming to mind. In chapter 18 of the first canto, yeah, let me pull that up. Chapter 18 of the first canto, Sutta Goswami is being glorified by the Shonaka Rishi for speaking such nice Harikatha. And afterwards, Sutta Goswami, he says that actually it's due to my association with you that I've been able to speak such nice things. It's only now this verse is coming to mind. I haven't thought about this in years, but yeah, this statement. So Sri Sutta Goswami says, "O God, although we are born in a mixed caste, we are still promoted in birthright simply by serving and following the great who are advanced in knowledge. Even by conversing with such great souls, one can without delay cleanse oneself of all disqualifications resulting from lower birth." He's trying to say that Shonaka is superior to him. He has a lower birth. Still, just by conversing with him, he's been able to be cleansed and empowered in such astonishing ways. Such is the power of talking to the right person or hearing from the right person. Anyway, very nice statement there. Okay, so now Mahaprabhu goes on to explain the verse. So now this passage is from verse 10 to verse 70. He explains all the meanings of the individual words of the Atmarama verse. So we're just going to try to get through all of that. It's literally 60 verses, so it's a lot. You want to take, if you're, later on, he's going to combine the meaning of these words. So knowing the individual meaning of the words was going to be important for understanding how Mahaprabhu links different words together and generates different meanings of the particular verse. So, and we'll do our very best to explain it. It's a little tricky. So, but in this passage, 10 to 70, he gives the meanings of each individual word. So there are 11 clear words in this verse, but when they are studied separately, various meanings glitter from each word. Okay, so next verse. Prabhupada's purport here just is telling the 11 words in the particular verse that Mahaprabhu is about to expound on. So the 7 different meanings of the word Atma are Brahma, the absolute truth, Deha, the body, Mana, the mind, Yatna, endeavor, Driti, firmness, Buddhi, intelligence, and Swabhava, nature. So these are the 7 meanings of the word Atma. Next verse. The following are synonyms of the word Atma. So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu will speak the meanings, and then he quotes from the Vishwa Prakash dictionary as a pramanam for his various explanations. So sometimes the verses appear to be repeating themselves. The following are synonyms of the word Atma: the body, mind, absolute truth, natural characteristics, firmness, intelligence, and endeavor. Okay, same. Next verse. The word Atmarama refers to one who enjoys these 7 items: the absolute truth, body, mind, and so on. Later, I shall enumerate the different types of Atmaramas. Okay, so that's the word Atma and Atmarama there. My dear Sanatan, first hear the meaning of the other words beginning with the word Muni. Atmaramascha Munaya, right? I shall first explain their separate meanings, then combine them. Okay, so the word Muni. The word Muni refers to one who is Manana Shila, thoughtful. Arakahimoni, one who is grave or silent, Moni. Tapasvi, an ascetic, one who keeps great vows, Vrati, one in the renounced order, Yeti, and a saint, Rishi. These are the different meanings of the word Muni. So the word Muni here has 6 meanings: Mananashila, Moni, Tapasvi, Vrati, Yeti, and Rishi. Okay, next verse. The word Nirgranta refers to one who is liberated from the material knots of ignorance, Avidya Grantihina. right? So this avidya granthi, also called hridaya granthi, right? The heart knot in the heart. So the heart knot in the heart is avidya. So also called avidya granthi, right? Just like if you go to a wedding, they say tie the knot. And in Vedic culture, they literally tie the knot of the cloths together. So I always, as a brahmachari especially, I always used to joke in my mind, this is avidya granthi, or the heart knot, right? Pung sastra maintuni bhavametam tayor mita hridaya granthi ahu. When man and woman come together because of the sexual attraction, or any other sorts of combinations these days, then there is the hridaya granthi, right? Mita hridaya granthi ahu. There is mutual tie in the heart. So vidya granthi means the knot of ignorance by which we are bound to the material world and the material bodies. So nirgranti means one who is avidya granti hina. He's liberated. That means he's beyond ignorance. He's gone beyond ignorance. That is one meaning. Then vidi nisheda veda shastra jnanani vihina. It also refers to one who is devoid of all regulative principles enjoined in the Vedic literatures. Vidi nisheda veda shastra. So the vidis means the things you're supposed to do. Nisheda, the things you're not supposed to do, according to Veda Shastra. So vihina, his life doesn't have any of that, which can be a positive or negative thing, because it can be a liberated person is also like that, and a most ignorant person is also like that. And Jnana Adi Vihina, he is one who is devoid of knowledge. Adi says, and so on. I don't know what is that so on, so we're probably going to hear about that later on. So just take note of it. So Mahaprabhu is given these meanings of the word Nigranta. So that is 3 meanings. And then in the next verse, we get another 6. Nigranta also refers to one who is illiterate, murka, low-born, nicha, mlecha, misbehaved. Shastra Riktagana, unregulated and devoid of respect for the Vedic literature. The word also refers to one who is a capitalist, dhana sanchayi, and to one who has no riches, nirdhana. So in this way, there are 9 meanings of the word nirgranta. So we will want to know these 9 meanings. So when Mahaprabhu starts combining things, it makes sense, hopefully. Now he quotes from the Vishwa Prakash dictionary to give, he gives 4 meanings of the word ni and 3 meanings of the word granta. Called nirgranta, right? Ni granta. So he breaks down that word nigranta itself into further parts. So the prefix ni may be used for a sense of ascertainment, nishchaye, gradation, krama arte, which means like step by step. Nirmana, construction or forbidding. So the word nirmana means like Prabhupada in the word Torah, a sense in the sense of forming something, like construction, constructing something. And nishedhaya, in the sense of forbidding. The word granta, so those are the 4 meanings of the word nihi. And the word granta means riches, dhane, thesis, sandarbhe, and composition, varna sangrantane. Okay. How this is meaningful, we'll have to see later. Now we're just getting the preparation stuff. Now the next word in the words, Atma, Ramas, we just heard about. Chamunaya, we heard about Muni. Negranta, we heard about. And now this word Urukrame. So the word Urukrama refers to one whose krama, whose step is great. The word krama means throwing the foot forward, that is stepping. So the first meaning of the word Urukrama is one whose krama, whose step is Uru, is very great. Okay, so krama also means power, shakti, trembling, kampa, paripati, a systematic method, argument, yukti, a forcible attack by stepping forward, shakti akramana, charana, chalane. And thus Vamana caused the 3 worlds to tremble, kanpaila tribhuvana. So who is this Vamandev? So he calls some shloka from Srimad Bhagavatam, talking about who is this? Vamande, Vishnur Nuvirya Gananam Katamo Tatiha Ya Partivanya Pikavir Viman Me Rajangsi Chaskambhaya Sa Ramhasa Kalatatra Prishtam Yasmat Trisamya Sadana Urukam Payanam. Even if a learned man is able to count all the minute atoms in this material world, he still cannot count the potencies of Lord Vishnu. In the form of the Vaman incarnation, Lord Vishnu, without hindrance, captured all the planets, extending from the root of the material world up to Satyaloka. Indeed, he caused every planetary system to tremble by the force of his steps. So this is one shloka that justifies the meaning of the word Urukrama, meaning one whose step is very great. And then some other statements here, Lord, I think these other statements are statements that justify the meaning of the word krama, meaning Shakti, and other such statements. So through his all-pervasive feature, Vibhurupe, that means the, I think, universal form in this context, the Supreme Personality of Godhead has expanded the entire creation. He is holding and maintaining this creation by his extraordinary potency, Shakti Dharana Poshana. By his conjugal potency, Madhurya Shakti, he maintains a planetary system known as Golok Vrindavan. And through his 6 opulences, Aishwarya, Paravyoma, he maintains many Vaikuntha planets. So one of the meanings of the word Krama was Shakti. So by these different Shaktis, he maintains and nourishes the material and spiritual worlds. Okay. The word Urukrama indicates the Supreme Personality of Godhead who, by his external potency, has perfectly created innumerable universes. Okay. Maya Shakti Brahma Dadi Paripati Srijana. So he's created systematically the different Brahmandas, material worlds, through his Maya Shakti, and Urukrama means that also. So Prabhupada, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu quotes the Prakash dictionary again as a justification of his understanding of the word Urukrama. So there are different meanings of the word krama. It is used in the sense of potency, systematic arrangement, step, moving, or trembling. So those are 5 meanings there given from this dictionary. So I think total, Mahaprabhu was given 6 meanings for the word Urukrama. 6 or 5, I have an asterisk here. It's either 6 or 5. Because, yeah, I think it's actually 5. Because the one list I have was 6. There's 2 things that's basically the same statement, taking a great step. So 5 meanings for the word Urukrama. Okay, so Kurvanti Ahaitukam Bhaktam. So now with this word Kurvanti, what is the meaning of that? The word Kurvanti means they do something for others, since it is a form of the verb to do, parasmaipada, indicating things done for others. It is used in connection with devotional service, which must be executed for the satisfaction of Krishna. That is the purport of the word Kurvanti. Okay, we're going to Prabhupada's purport helpful here. Proper, right. So in Sanskrit, the verb to do has 2 forms, technically called parasmaipada and atmanepada. When things are done for one's personal satisfaction, the form is called atmanepada. In that case, the word do in English is kurvate in Sanskrit. When things are done for others, the verb changes to kurvanti. Thus, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu informs Sanatana Goswami that in the Atmarama verse, the verb kurvanti means that things should be done only for the satisfaction of Krishna. So the verb has 2 forms. One form is when an action is taken for oneself, and another form of the verb is when the action is taken for others. So the word kurvanti is a parasmaipada, the sense of the word done for others. So in the context of the verse, it refers to Krishna Sukha Nimita Bhajane, that you do your bhajan for the pleasure of Krishna. That is the tatparya, or the import of the word kurvanti here. That's what Mahaprabhu is saying. Okay, determination of the atmanepada are employed when the fruit of the action accrues to the agent of verbs having an indicatory nin or a swarita accent. Okay, so next verse. So what is that? Kurvanti ahaitukyam bhaktim. So what is this ahaituki? So first, Mahaprabhu explains what is hetu, so you can understand what is ahetu, right? Ahetukyam bhaktim. So what is this hetu? So the word hetu means that a thing is done for some motive. Bhukti adi vansha antare. You have some motive when doing. So there can be three motives: bhukti, siddhi, mukti. One may act to enjoy the result personally, that's called bhukti, to achieve some material perfection, that's called siddhi, and to attain liberation, it's called mukti. Okay. So first we take the word bhukti, which is of unlimited variety. Eka bhukti kahe bhoga ananta prakar. There's so many ways people try to enjoy. So the various ways are unlimited. Just like when I was in Chicago, I think last time I was in Chicago was in January of last year. And we were driving past like a Burger King or something like that they have. And they had this new thing called like a waffle burger. Like they take like waffles and like some meat thing and lettuce and tomatoes, and they put it in a waffle. They had one image on it on the post, and it looked absolutely abhorrent. And yet, it was a new burger option, I suppose. So the ways of enjoying are literally ananta. That's why I'm giving this example. People think of even the strangest ways to enjoy the material world. There was another. I saw this like, I don't know, a month ago. There was a meme where it says, American food literally scares me. And then the image was of something like cotton candy. Oh, I can't even remember what it was. It was like cotton candy sandwich or something. Like it was like absolutely appalling, but somehow someone had came up with that. So that is Ananta Prakar. Bhoga Ananta Prakar. The ways we can think to enjoy are literally unlimited in number. So the Siddhi, that is the second mode of Mahaprabhu mentioned of the three, is Ashtadhasha, 18 types. There are 18 types of Siddhis mentioned by Krishna and Uddhav Gita. And then the Mukti, which is the third motive, is Panchavidhakar, is 5 types. So Yuja Mukti, and then 4 types of Vaikuntha liberation, Sarupya, Shashti, Samipya, Salokya. So those are the varieties there. Causes devotional service. So now he's described the word hetu. So now ahaituki. What is this ahaituki? So causes devotional service, ahaituki, is unmotivated by sense enjoyment, perfection, or liberation. So nahi taha bhakti ahaituki. So ahaituki bhakti is without these 3 motives. When one is free from all these contaminations, he can bring Lord Krishna, who is very funny, under control. Shri Krishna Kotiki. I don't know what is the significance of mentioning that Krishna is very funny here, but I don't know, that somehow stood out to me. He is funny. Okay, so now the meaning of ahaituki has been explained. So now what is the meaning of bhakti? Because kurvanti ahaitukyam bhaktim, right? Ahaituki bhaktim. So what is the meaning of this word bhakti? So he says here, there are 10 meanings for the word bhakti. One is sarana bhakti, execution of devotional service according to the regulative principles. And the other 9 are varieties of prem bhakti, ecstatic love of Godhead. So you remember the 9, right? Prabhupada gives it the list here. Rati, which is bhav bhakti. Prem, sneha, man, pranaya, rag, anurag, bhav, and mahabhav. We heard a little bit about that in the previous section. So the word bhakti refers to all these types. Next are explained the symptoms of love of Godhead, which can be divided into 9 varieties, beginning with attraction, rati, and extending up to ecstatic love, prema, and finally up to the topmost ecstatic love, mahabhav. Okay, so those are the different types of meanings of the word bhakti. He describes a little bit more here because we heard a little bit about this also in the Prayojan Tattva chapter. The attraction to Krishna of devotees on the platform of neutrality, so the Shanta Bhaktas, increases up to prema, and the attraction of devotees on the platform of servitorship, dasya bhaktas, increases to raga, spontaneous attachment, within the category of prema. Devotees in Vrindavan who are friends of the Lord can increase their ecstatic love to the point of anuraga. Parental affection lovers, Krishna's father and mother, can increase their love of Godhead up to the end of anuraga. The gopis of Vrindavan who are attached to Krishna in conjugal love can increase their ecstatic love up to the point of mahabhava, the greatest ecstatic love. These are some of the glorious meanings of the word bhakti. So he'll elaborate on this a little bit in the appropriate spot in this chapter. Okay, last words, itam bhuta gunahari. So what is this itam bhuta? Please hear the meaning of the word itam bhuta guna, which is found in the Atmarama verse. Itam bhuta has different meanings and guna has other meanings. Okay. So itam bhuta, shabdhera artha purnanandamai. So the word itam bhuta is transcendentally exalted because it means full of transcendental bliss. Purna anandamai. Purna anandamai. So that is the meaning of the word itam bhuta. Purna anandamai, he says. Before this bliss, the bliss derived from the merging into the existence of the absolute, Brahmananda, becomes like a piece of straw in comparison. Okay, itam bhuta means full of bliss. So compared to other happinesses or bliss, I should say, then other bliss is insignificant. So some few verses are quoted to demonstrate this. I'm just going to read the English. My dear Lord, O Master of the universe, since I have directly seen you, my transcendental bliss has taken the shape of a great ocean. Being situated in that ocean, I now realize all other so-called happiness to be like the water contained in the hoof print of a calf. Okay. So the verse said just by seeing Krishna, right? So this statement of Mahaprabhu is to expand on that. Lord Krishna is so exalted that he is more attractive than anything else. Sarva Akarshika. So the word like Sri Krishna Akarshani, one of the 6 characteristics of Uttam Bhakti. Akarshika means to attract. So many things are attracting our senses. But if you see Krishna, he's the most attractive. So we call Sarva Akarshika. And he is more pleasing than anything else. Sarva Ahladika. So things that give happiness or pleasure. So of all things, there can be nothing superior to Krishna. And he is the most sublime abode of bliss, Maharasayana. Maharasa Ayana. So the word Ayana means like abode or shelter. So he is a shelter of Maharas. So where you will find that anywhere else. So by his own strength, he causes one to forget all other ecstasies. Okay, apanare bhale karesara vismarana. So examples of persons forgetting other ecstasies will now be given. Pure devotional service is so sublime that one can very easily forget the happiness derived from bhukti mukti siddhi sukha. Okay, thus the devotee is bound by Krishna's mercy and his uncommon power and qualities. Are there any examples of this? Many. When one is attracted to Krishna on the transcendental platform, there is no longer any logical argument on the basis of revealed scripture, nor are there considerations of such conclusions. That means for like us, we require Shastra Yukti and Siddhanta Vichar, right? These are the 2 statements here. Otherwise, we like start struggling with our faith. We get doubts. we wonder if Krishna really does exist, and we start making excuses for our sense gratification. So for us, Shastra Yukti, the logic based on Shastra, and the Siddhanta Vichar, the consideration of the Siddhanta, very important. But if you're actually seeing Krishna, you don't need all that. The proof of the pudding is in the tasting, right? If you're tasting sugar candy or sweet rice, you don't require Shastra Yukti or Siddhanta Vichar to help you understand the sweetness of the sweet rice. You're directly tasting it, right? So when you experience Krishna, that's what he's saying. It doesn't require Shastra Yukti or Siddhanta at that point. This is his transcendental quality that is the essence of all transcendental sweetness. Okay? So the word guna means quality. The qualities of Krishna are transcendentally situated and are unlimited in quantity. So all the spiritual qualities are full of transcendental bliss. So basically, it's saying here that the word guna means quality, and three things about this. Number one is that Krishna's qualities are unlimited. Krishnera guna ananta. The other is that his qualities are sat and chit, so of the nature of immortality and pure awareness. And his qualities are sarva purnananda. They're full of the bliss. So that is the nature of his guna, his quality. Okay, Krishna's transcendental qualities of opulence, sweetness, and mercy, Aishwarya Madhurya Karunya, are perfect and full, Swarupa Purnata. I guess it gives a sense that his qualities manifest, broadly speaking, in these three sort of categories. He manifests his qualities as opulences that invoke, awe and reverence. And then he manifests his qualities as sweetness, which subjugates those who love him. And he also manifests his qualities as magnanimity. So I got a sense that these are indicating three broad categories in which Krishna's qualities are made evinced. As far as Krishna's affectionate leaning toward his devotees is concerned, Bhakta Vatsalya, he is so magnanimous that he can give himself to his devotees. Atma Paryanta Vadhanyata. Okay, that's a very nice quality. Perhaps this Bhakta Vatsalya quality is brought up because it's considered the essence of all of his qualities, or the most exalted or significant of all his qualities. The Bhakta Vatsalya quality is the sort of soul of all the other qualities. In other words, just like a body without a soul is not attractive. So all of Krishna's opulences without this Bhakta Vatsalya quality would not be attractive. That's the sense there. This idea is elaborated on in the Madhurya Kandambini, the last chapter from Sri Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's a description of Krishna's Bhakta Vatsalya quality. So there he makes a case for this being the essence of all his qualities. Okay, so Krishna has unlimited qualities, that was already mentioned. The devotees are attracted by his uncommon beauty, mellows, and fragrance. Thus, they are differently situated in different transcendental mellows. So, therefore, Krishna is called all attractive. We've mentioned this many times before, but Krishna has unlimited qualities. But according to the type of love you have for Krishna, there's a unique set of qualities that stimulates that love, right? So although, in other words, other set of qualities don't stimulate a certain type of love as much as a particular set of qualities. And so if you study Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, when they're describing the different types of love for Krishna, Shantarati, Dasyarati, Sakyarati, Madhurarati, Vatsalyarati, they will describe in those chapters the different sort of qualities of Krishna that stimulate that type of love, right? So they say, oh, the Shankta Bhaktas, they like these qualities. Or this, the Dasya Bhaktas, they like these types of qualities. Or the Madhurya Bhaktas, they like these types of qualities. That way, when you're, cultivating your contemplative life in terms of attraction to Krishna, so this will be part of your meditation, these particular qualities, which this particular standard of love really appreciates, right? One person is there. He's loved by many. He's loved by his mother. He's loved by his friends. He's loved by his lovers. but they all appreciate different qualities in that one person. So same statement here is being made. Okay, so now he's giving the examples of different types of devotees who got attracted to Krishna. First, giving the Kumaras. So the minds of the four boys, sages, were attracted to the lotus feet of Krishna by the aroma of the tulsi that had been offered to the Lord. So they were situated in Brahman, then they became Krishna bhaktas because of the aroma of the tulsi. So this shloka is quoted. This is such a beautiful shloka, but I'm not going to describe it here. It's just being offered here as a pramana to show that these types of devotees also got attracted to Krishna, these types of persons. Even though they were impersonalists previously, they became attracted to Krishna. That is the purpose of this shloka here. When the breeze carrying the aroma of tulsi leaves and saffron from the lotus feet of the lotus eye personality of Godhead entered through the nostrils into the hearts of those sages, the Kumaras, they experienced a change in both body and mind, even though they were attached to the impersonal Brahman understanding. It would be nice to explain this verse. It's such a sweet verse, a really nice verse to know. All right, I'm gonna move on. Shukadev's mind was carried away by hearing the pastimes of the Lord. So another example. So two verses are quoted. My dear king, although I was fully situated in the transcendental position, I was nonetheless attracted to the pastimes of Lord Krishna. Therefore, I studied Srimad Bhagavatam from my father. And this other verse, which I quote quite a bit. I offer my respectful obeisances unto Srila Shukadeva Goswami, Swasuka Nibrita Chesta, Vyasa Sunam Natosmi. He is the son of Vyasadeva and the destroyer of all sinful reactions. Tamakila Vijayaknam. Being full in self-realization and bliss, Swasuka Nibrita Chetas, he had no material desire. Tavyu Distamna Bhava. Still, Api, he was attracted by the transcendental pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Ajituruchila Lila Akrishtasaras. And out of compassion for the people, he described the transcendental historical literature called Srimad Bhagavatam. So, Tadhiyam Vitanu Takripaya Yas Tattam Deepam Puranam. This is compared to the light of the absolute truth, Tadhiyam. Tadiya means in relationship to the Lord, this Purana he is described. Now, the Shastras call this Tadiya, right? And Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Tadiya Seva is one of the Angas of Bhakti, right? And the Tadiya Seva has four. There are four types of Tadiyas mentioned there. You remember what they are? Sadhu Sangha is one type of Tadiya. Tulsi is another type. Shastra, especially like Bhakti Shastras like Bhagavatam, is another Tadiya. Then there's a fourth type of Tadiya. You know what it is? I don't remember. Maybe it's the Dham. I don't recall. What is the fourth Tadiya mentioned? So you know the shloka, Aradhananam Sarvesham, Vishnu Aradhanam Param, Tasmat Param Taram Devi, Tadiyanam Samarchanam. So of all sorts of worship mentioned in Shastra, Vishnu worship is supreme. But superior to that is to worship the Tadiyas. So Tadiyam Puranam. This Purana is the Tadiya. And out of mercy, he is giving this Tadiya to the people of this world in the form of his speech, which gives illumination on the absolute truth, Tattva Deepam. Such a nice verse. So this verse is quoted for this particular line, this second line, or you can say this first line, that he was situated in impersonal realization, but he was drawn out of that to the Leelas of Krishna. So that means Krishna's happy. That means what he discovered in Krishna surpassed whatever bliss he was experiencing. So this is an example of how Krishna's quality attracts everyone. All right, another example. Lord Shri Krishna attracts the minds of all the gopis with his beautiful transcendental bodily features. So another shloka is, I'm not going to recite the Sanskrit, although all these shlokas are very nice. Dear Krishna, we have simply surrendered ourselves as your maid servants, for we have seen your beautiful face decorated with tresses of hair. Tresses of hair. Your earrings falling upon your cheeks, the nectar of your lips, and the beauty of your smile. Indeed, because we have also been embraced by your arms, which give us courage, and seeing your chest, which is beautiful and broad, we have surrendered ourselves. Okay, so obviously the gopis are attracted. The queens in Dwarka, headed by Rukmini, are also attracted to Krishna simply by hearing about his transcendental beauty and qualities. A shloka. O most beautiful Krishna, spoken by Rukmini, I have heard about your transcendental qualities from others, and therefore all my bodily miseries are relieved. Wow. If someone sees your transcendental beauty, his eyes have attained everything profitable in life. O infallible one, I have become shameless after hearing of your qualities, and I have become attracted to you. Such nice shloka here. Okay, so the queens in Dwarka, they're obviously attracted to Krishna. So Lord Krishna even attracts the mind of the goddesses of fortune simply by vibrating his transcendental flute. Then he quotes a verse spoken by the wives of Kaliya. O Lord, we do not know how the serpent Kali attained such an opportunity to be touched by the dust of your lotus feet. Right? At first, they were like, kill him. They didn't even care. They're like, kill him. But then they were thinking, wait a minute. So many sages trying to get the dust of his feet. And here Krishna's feet dancing on his head. He must be some great devotee, actually. So then they started praying on his behalf. So they mentioned this thing. We don't know how he's getting this mercy. For this end, getting the dust of the feet, the goddess of fortune performed austerities for centuries, giving up all other desires and taking austere vows. Indeed, we do not know how the serpent Kaliya got such an opportunity. So the Lakshmis are attracted. That is the purpose of this shloka in this context. All right, just a few more verses here. Krishna attracts not only the minds of the gopis and the goddess of fortune, but the minds of all the young girls in the three worlds as well. Okay, so even materialistic women, they also get attracted to Krishna. My dear Lord Krishna, where is that woman within the three worlds who would not be captivated by the rhythms of the sweet songs coming from your wonderful flute? Who would not fall down from the path of chastity in this way? Your beauty is the most sublime within the three worlds. Upon seeing your beauty, even cows, birds, animals, and trees in the forest become stunned in jubilation. So even the animals are attracted. So that's going to be highlighted. The women of Vrindavan who are on the level of superior guardians are attracted to Lord Krishna maternally. The men of Vrindavan are attracted as servants, friends, and fathers. The qualities of Krishna captivate and attract everything, living and non-living. Even birds, animals, and trees are attracted to Krishna's qualities. So that's the explanation of Itam Bhuta Guna Hari. Okay, not Hari, just the Itam Bhuta Guna. All right, now the meaning of the word Hari. I'm going to finish these meanings. Otherwise, it's going to put a break in the flow. So don't worry, just a few more verses here. We only got 10 more. So the word Hari has many different meanings, but two of them are foremost. One meaning is that the Lord takes away all inauspicious things from his devotees. Sarva Amangala Hare. And the second meaning is that he attracts the mind by ecstatic love for God. Premadhiya Hare Mana. So these are the two meanings. So first meaning is described. When a devotee somehow or other always remembers the supreme personality of Godhead, anywhere and everywhere, Yache Taiche Yohi Kohi, somehow or other, anywhere and everywhere, Karaye Smaran, you remember Krishna. Then if you do that, Chari Vida Tap Tare Kare Samharana. Lord Hari takes away or destroys Samharana, the four miserable conditions, Chari Vida. So according to Prabhupada's purport, the four miserable conditions are due to four categories of sin: Pataka, Urupataka, Mahapataka, and Atipataka. So these four categories of sin, they have very technical, they're very technical categories. Prabhupada in his purport here, he just says, no eating meat, no intoxication, no illicit sex. But these four don't correspond to these four categories mentioned in the first sentence here. I looked it up. It's like super complicated. Not complicated. There's a lot of taxonomy there. So we're not going to get into that. You can just understand that we're suffering because we live in sin, and there are four categories of sin that we can perform. So the reactions to these sins are destroyed by Hari. That is the point that is being made here. So some shloka from Gita, or this from Uddhav Gita, is given for this. As all fuel is burned to ashes by a full-fledged fire, All sinful activities are totally erased when one engages in devotional service to me. Great. Okay, so in this way, when all sinful activities are vanquished by the grace of the Supreme Lord, one gradually vanquishes all kinds of impediments on the path of devotional service, as well as the ignorance resulting from these impediments. So if you do bhakti, sadhana bhakti, then you will experience this avidya nash. Avidya nash means the destruction of avidya. So then bhakti bhadaka karma. So the different types of avidya karma, the activities informed by the avidya, they are no longer there to stop the flow of bhakti, bhakti bhadaka. So then after that you attain rati basically. So then when the rati is there, then the bhakti really starts to flow nicely. So Shrava Nadhyara Pala Prema Karaye Prakash. So then after this, one totally manifests his love of Godhead through devotional service in 9 different ways, hearing, chanting, and so on. All right, now you have rati. So then you performing same bhakti, Shravan Kirtan, but now it's to express your love for Krishna. And when you're doing sadhana bhakti, it's to get love. But when you have love, then you express it through the same Shravan Kirtan and so on. So this is supposed to be the second meaning of the word Hari. First, through his mercy, he removes all inauspiciousness, which is rooted in avidya. Then after that, he gives the rati or the prema. So when the devotee is freed from all sinful activities, Krishna attracts his body, mind, and senses to his service. So now you don't have the avidya. So nijaguna, Krishna's own qualities, attracts everything. Your body, your senses, your mind, your everything. Thus, Krishna is very merciful and his transcendental qualities are very attractive. Okay, so that's Hari. When one's mind, senses, and body are attracted to the transcendental qualities of Hari, one gives up the 4 principles of material success, Purushartha. Purushartha means Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha. So if you have Reti, you're not attracted to the Purushartha because you have the Panchama Purushartha, Shiromani, the crash jewel of Purusharthas, which is the 5th one, known as Reti or Prema. So you give up the other Purusharthas. So this is the meaning of the word Hari. Okay. All right. Final gloss here. The words cha and api. So they appear in a couple places in the verse. So what is the meaning? He says, so when the conjunctions cha and api are added to this verse, the verse can assume whatever meaning one wants to give it. I have to admit, when I studied this chapter many years ago, and yeah, once he starts combining words to cha and api, it's going to get really wild. Very little challenge to understand. So he says the word cha can be explained in 7 ways. Okay, let's hear these 7. The word cha is used to connect a word or sentence, anvachaye, with a previous word or sentence, to give the sense of aggregation, samahare, to assist the meaning, anyo nyarte, to give a collective understanding, samuchaye, to suggest another effort or exertion, yatna antare, or to fulfill the meter of a verse, pada purane. It is also used in the sense of certainty, avadharane. Okay, I've noted all these different meanings in my notes, so we'll definitely come back to them as we start to see Mahaprabhu combine the meanings hereafter. And then there are 7 chief meanings of the word api. They are as follows. The word api is used in the sense of possibility, sambhavana, question, prashna, doubt, shanka, censor, garha, aggregation, samuchaya, appropriate application of things, yukta padarteshu, and extravagance, kamachara kriyasu. So these are the 7 meanings of the word arpi. I have now described the different meanings of the 11 separate words. Now let me give the complete meaning of the shloka as it is applied in different places. Hari, Hari, Bol. Okay, so this is not a very interesting class today for obvious reasons, but But it becomes more interesting after you, it becomes more interesting once you start hearing Mahaprabhu combine different meanings. Then it becomes quite interesting and extraordinary. And it also gives a very profound understanding of bhakti philosophy just by knowing this one verse. So I do hope to future classes you will find it more interesting. But today we're just giving us the preparatory stuff, so it's not very interesting. Still somehow there's one question here. Tadiya means the Tulsi leaves, the devotees of Krishna, the birthplace of Krishna. So the Dham, right? In the Vedic literature, Srimad Bhagavatam, right? So it was the Dham, was the fourth one. When you said for regular, not in four sins, they are still considered sins, correct? Yes, that I said the Prabhupada, he gave four categories of sin, right? There was Pataka, Uru Pataka, Mahapataka, Atipataka. I said, and then he's at the end of the sentence said the four regular principles, but I said there's no correspondence between, there's respectively between like Pataka and one of the four regs and Uru Pataka and another one of the four regs, that there's no correspondence there. But yes, those are, the four regs are, breaking the four regs is sinful, yes. Okay, Athena has some questions. Hari has some questions. Sham.
Hi, GGP Dandavat Pranams. If we could go back to, these are some technical questions. I think it was 24, 28, when it talks about the 5 types of mukti, liberation. We know, for example, Sajya, having the same opulences of the Lord, living on the same planet, so on and so forth. But when a devotee comes down lifetime after lifetime to serve the Lord, then what type, they're obviously liberated, but what type of mukti are they experiencing?
When your question is when a devotee who descends into the material world, like to do some service for Krishna.
Yes, and just comes lifetime after lifetime. They're not living on the same planet. They don't have the same form. They're not in Suja.
I don't know any such devotees like that. Like in other words, I don't know Shastra speaking of any such devotees like that. I know we've heard devotees express sentiments like that, you know, or express that sentiment about their guru or something. The guru is coming again and again and again. And maybe they have some category like that in the Buddhism, the Bodhisattva. Maybe I've heard something like this, where he continues to come again and again until all the living entities are liberated, which means he'll never come out of the material world because the living entities are literally unlimited. And there will always be conditioned souls in the material world. But I don't know any such category of entity like that. In any case, if a living entity is perfected and he descends in that way, he's called as Nitya Siddha, right? Eternally liberated. So he comes, as he's navigating the material world, that sort of liberation is called Jiva Mukta, liberated while in the material body, right? There could be 2 types of Jiva Muktas, those who are impersonalists and those who are personalists. So if some Nitya Siddha descends in the material world again and again and again, suppose that premise is true, and he's moving around the material world, that's sort of mukti called Jiva Mukti. But I not hear any special category for some soul who comes repeatedly. So I've not ever seen anything like that in Shastra. Maybe it is there. I don't know. I've not heard such a thing also.
Thank you. As I was asking the question and as you kind of responding, I don't know if these are realizations, but I'd love for you to comment. But say it's the Nitya Siddha. They're obviously Nitya Siddhas who descend and they take on a material body, but they're eternally liberated. And I guess you're caveating that you don't know any Nitya Siddha who will come back time and time again, lifetime after lifetime to serve the Lord. But if the category of the Nitya Siddha descending, is this maybe that one of them is serving the Lord as an associate? And I originally thought it's in the same planet, like serving as an associate, on the same planet, living on the same planet as the Lord. But I guess if you just I guess it's like the nuances of the definition, perhaps like say, Narada Muni, of course, this isn't the perfect example, but he's not on the same planet as the Lord, but he's serving as an associate. He's always connected with Krishna. He is serving the Lord as an associate. And then I think another one is, I thought you look exactly like the Lord. So, on the planet of, one of the Vaikuntha planets, you look just like Vishnu. The only differentiation is the tuft of golden hair and the Kastuba jewel. But another thought is, I don't know if it's exact definitions, when you have the same like body as the Lord, maybe it's the Satchidananda Vigraha. It is fully pure. You already have a spiritual body. I don't know if I'm extrapolating, but I'm just trying to understand these Nitya Siddhis who have descended, they obviously are liberated. So what of the 5 types of mukti are they experiencing? And so I'm extrapolating these 2, but I don't know if that's correct. If you could comment.
It's not clear what you're asking. What are the 5 types of mukti they're experiencing if they descend in the material world? That's what you're asking?
Yes, I'm basically, if you're liberated, there's 5 types of mukti, and in Vaikuntha there's the same opulence of the Lord, living on
okay,
and then Sukaloka as well. But if you are a Nitya Siddha who has descended into this material world, what type of mukti is that considered? Or is it just that you have actually reached it, but you just descend? I'm saying they are liberated already, but they're not seeming to be in any of the 5 categories. They're in the material world right now, but they're eternally liberated. And so I was extrapolating 2 of those 5, saying, well, actually, one who is a Nitya Siddha or already
I don't know. These are a little complicated. So these 5 categories is discussing mukti when you come out of the material body and go to the spiritual realm. And you're saying, well, what is the category if they descend to the material world? So I'm saying, well, if they're liberated while they're in the material body, that category is called Jiva Mukta. So that is simple. I don't know what else you're looking. You're looking for like a special category for souls who descend in the material world. I don't know any special category. I've not heard anything like that in Shastra. It may be there, but I don't know any special category of mukti for souls who descend the material world. I have not seen anything like that.
Thank you. Just to clarify what I was trying to say, I think you answered it. If you're Nitya Siddha and you come down to the material world, it's just considered Jiva Mukta. But when you're situated in the spiritual world, then it would be within what you're experiencing is within the 5 types of mukti, liberation. What I was trying to do is, if you in the Jiva Mukta, because you're eternally liberated and you're coming down as a service, could you extrapolate, say, 2 of the 5 types of mukti that you experience in the spiritual world?
I'm not saying anyone extrapolate. That's what I'm saying. So if it is there, I'm not aware of it.
Okay, thank you so much. I had another question just on the same verse. It talks about the siddhis, and there's 18 varieties. I think even when I look it up, it's only the 8. And sorry, this kind of goes tangential.
This 18 is mentioned in Uddhava Gita. It must be chapter 15 or 16 of the 11th canto. The chapter I think is called, I think our devotees has translated as the mystic yoga system or something like that. So you're going to see it is right there in the beginning of the chapter. There are 8 primary siddhis that belong to Krishna inherently, and then there are 10 more that come if you do a certain process. So 18 are mentioned there.
Thank you. I was going to relate it to something in the 9th canto, but let me look it up first before I launch into that question. Thank you.
There in 11th canto, clear as day.
Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Haribol.
Hey, Jaya, can I get my question too?
Oh yeah, Hari Sham had a question for you.
The ladies first.
I know.
Let her go first. Let her go first.
I understand that he did. I'm only jumping in because I'm not seeing my screen, so I didn't know. But I'm only jumping in because I just needed to clarify something that Athena said before it gets lost. So when she was trying to make sure that she understood you correctly, I think she said that when a Nitya Siddha comes to this material world, that person can be considered a Jivan Mukta. I don't know if she said that, but I was thinking that Jivan. Oh, that's correct?
Yes, it means that her question was trying to understand, is there a different category of mukti for souls who
I understand
descend.
her question, but
So I said I
but
don't know such category, but if they're liberated while they're in a material body, that category is called Jivan Mukta. So that's what she was repeating.
So a Nitya Siddha who comes to this world, right? Let's take Srila Prabhupada. Would he be considered a Jivan Mukta?
Yes, why not?
Because my conception was that a Jivan Mukta is somebody who was originally conditioned, right? And then attained liberation.
No, that's not the only type of Jivan Mukta. That is one type. So one type is Samprapti Siddha, right? Where you've attained Siddha. So you can attain Siddha in two ways, by sadhana or by kripa. So if you attain Siddhi, either by sadhana or by mercy, and you're still in the material body, then you're called Jivan Mukta. That's one type. Then there's another type where you are Siddha, if you're Nitya Siddha and you come in the material world, like Jiva Goswami, Srila Rupa Goswami, etc. They are also Jivan Mukta because they're liberated while they're in the material body.
Okay. Yeah, I guess, it got blurry for me because, the material body part, I associated material body only with conditioned souls who, souls who were once conditioned. Yeah. Okay, thank you for the clarification.
And Athena says, but isn't Jiva Mukta considered only Brahmin? No, that I already mentioned that. There are two types. So an impersonal is one type, and another type is Bhakta. Okay, so Harisham, you have a question?
Yeah.
Or a statement or whatever.
Slightly, no, question, slightly. I don't think it's too off topic, but it's related to bhakti, I guess. Anyways, in the Bhakti Sandarbha,
it's related to bhakti.
Text, yeah, exactly. In the Bhakti Sandarbha in text 13, Srila Jiva Goswami is talking about how bhakti is the ultimate process, and he says that bhakti can attain perfection even when performed with impediments. But for jnana to bear fruit, then there can't be any imperfections in the practice of the jnana yogi. And I was just thinking about this, and this question popped in my head, but someone could say, aren't there like Kanishta Jnana Yogis, Madhyam Jnana Yogis? Like, it's not like necessarily that every Jnana Yogi is going to start out like perfectly pure before he begins his practice, right? He's trying to purify, he's going to make mistakes, but he's going to get some benefit from trying to meditate, control his senses, practice pranayam, do Ishvara Pranidhana. So why does Srila Jiva Goswami say that if there's imperfections, along in the practice of jnana, it'll never bear fruit?
I have to go and see the anuchet you're talking about to be able to speak with better precision. But my intuitive sense is that to be qualified for Jnana Yoga, you have to have basically come to the point of Brahman realization through Nishkama Karma Yoga, right?
Right.
So in other words, your antakarna has to be already pretty much purified in order to have adhikar for the practices of Gyan Marg and Yoga Marg authentically. So with bhakti, that purification of the antakarna is not a prerequisite for bhakti proper. Even if your antakarna is full of contamination, still you can chant here, etc., etc. So that's my intuitive sense of what's being told there, but I can't say with absolute precision because I don't have Bhakti Sundarbha right near me at the present moment.
The only doubt I'm having is that, in the 6th chapter, and I'm not as good at quoting verses, but the verse where Krishna says, for some yogis, abandonment of work is the path of purification, and for some, working is the path of purification. So it seems to indicate that even in the practice of jnana and yoga, there are practitioners whose antakarna isn't perfectly purified, which is why they still have to engage with matter to continue the purification. And so it seems to indicate that, one can begin either of those paths with impediments and imperfections and still by his practice gradually improve.
So Krishna, in that chapter, he's talking about the yoga of Arukshu and the yoga Ruda person, right? And yoga Arukshu means to begin like a beginner in the yoga path, and yoga Aruda means like an adept. So a Rurukshu person is one who is coming through karma yoga. So he's in the beginning stages. He's starting to do meditation practice, a chapter called Dhyan Yoga, right? Meditation. He's come through path of karma yoga, which means he's purified his antakarna like a lot. And now he's starting to shift into the meditation life of a yogi. So because he's a beginner, he may still, not may, Krishna is saying for the yoga of Rurukshu, he's still supporting that meditation practice with karma yoga. And then when he becomes an adept, then he gives up karma yoga and just does meditation, samadhi practices and all that. That's what he's saying there. So that there's like a kind of a gradation, but still the persons who are doing it are like quite accomplished by karma yoga, like advancement in karma yoga. Because the context in which those first 4 verses appears is after Krishna has talked about the enlightened karma yogi in chapter 5, right?
Right.
And then he's in the beginning of chapter 6, he's kind of like just making one final statement about the karma yogi, like, he's like very advanced, not he who lights no fire, does no work. Like this enlightened karma yogi is like legit. Now he's making a shift to the contemplative life of like a yogi. So in the beginning, he still does his karma yoga, but then he becomes an adept, he gives it up. So these persons are still like their antakarna is like pure. And that's what allows them to even consider doing any of these sadhanas, Gyan or yoga, that is to say. But for the bhakta, that prerequisite isn't there. Otherwise, there'd be no question of hippies and lechas and all those, people like us. There'd be no question of doing bhakti. That's the sense that I get, but I could be a little bit off here. I have to go and see the Anuchay to see more precisely.
I only asked the question because we were having a Gita class Sunday night, and there's this new guy who has a lot of background in yoga and Gyan, and he's coming to bhakti, and so he pointedly asked me this question. He said, okay, so you're saying that bhakti can be done with impediments and attain purification, but I wasn't very
with impediments means with your antakarna being jacked up.
Right, exactly. And so he was asking, like, I also did, I did something, and I think it did benefit me, and I'm not that pure or anything like that. So it helps to. I think the problem is that people don't realize that these paths had qualifications. Like in the ancient times, you couldn't just pick up the path of Gyan and just start practicing Gyan because you read about it in a library book and now you're a Gyan yogi. To actually bear fruit, you had to, just like remember when Deep went to Hawaii and they wouldn't let him join the ashram because his karma yoga was kind of jacked up. He hadn't made it to like the platform of renunciation. So anyway, okay, cool. So that really helps.
Sundari, she can give more insight on this because she was studying properly the yoga practices of samadhi, and she was telling me about one author. This is about a year ago. She was telling me a year and a half ago, and I think Shamsundar and Sri Govinda, you were gonna go to Bali to go to one of this guy's retreats. Anyway, in one of his books, he was saying he's like a legit yogi, like hardcore. And he was describing like the progression from each of the stages. And he was mentioning that if you want to practice samadhi, the only way you could do it is go to the forest. There is no other way you could practice samadhi. And Shamsundari, who is very, judicious and who she hears from in terms of like accuracy of presentation and so on. So she was just, this guy was doing like serious yoga practice. And he was like, there's no way you can practice like samadhi, the goal of yoga, for example, in the city, where it's like the rustle and bustle of the city. There's no way. You have to go to a forest. And he was, describing, I did not read it, but Shamsundari was describing it. So in other words, as you say, it requires a certain adhikar to really get the fruits of those practices. Same with Gyan. That's why Krishna's, you'll see in the Gita, Krishna actually never talks about Jnana directly. It was a revelation when I did this. I wrote this Gita essay for this magazine about a year or maybe 2 years ago now. And, about karma yoga, Jnana yoga, bhakti, they wanted me to describe all the yogas in the Gita. And then when I was putting together all my references, I noticed that Krishna never talks about Gyan directly, positively especially. He only talks about it when he does in contrast with karma yoga, which he's actually advocating for. So because most people can't do this thing, actually, it's not possible. They don't have adhikar for that. So bhakti with here is saying, well, what's the adhikar for that? Your antakarna has to be pure. That's the adhikar. So for bhakti, that's not required. So that's what he's saying. That's a blessing for us Kali Yuga creatures.
That was really helpful, super helpful actually. And I love the story of the Sri Govinda and Shamsundari. Real quick, what did you just say was the revelation while saying the Gita that Krishna doesn't directly talk about Gyan? Like
He doesn't talk about Gyan like directly. He only brings up Gyan in contrast with karma yoga, which he's advocating for, because he's not advocating for Gyan at any point in the Gita. He's only advocating for karma yoga. So he brings up Gyan in the context of karma yoga. And he'll say, yeah, like in chapter 5, beginning part, yeah, there's Gyan process also and karma yoga. And if you follow both of them to the conclusion, you get the same result. But of the two, karma yoga is better because of this. Now he gives his reasons. So throughout the Gita, you'll never, even the chapter 4, which is known as Gyan Yoga, traditionally, Krishna is talking about karma yoga for the entire chapter, basically. And the Jnana that the karma yogi, is applying when he's practicing his karma yoga. That's what chapter 4 is about. But it's not directly about Gyan yoga. So it's kind of interesting. Krishna's not.
Got it.
He doesn't really.
Thank you.
Yeah, it doesn't have appreciate Gyan path so much, it seems. At least not directly. Sri Govinda says the author's name was Gregor Mahel. There you can see it. It's in the chat box. I guess you can also say the Nitya Siddhas in the spiritual world are in the 5 types of mukti, sure. And then they decided to send to the material world and they would be Jiva Muktas, but their original position is already experiencing in the 5 types of mukti in the spiritual world, sure. Okay, we'll pause here for today and try to do, better tomorrow, make it a little bit more interesting. Mahaprabhu's starting to combine the different meanings. Hari Om Tat Sat.